Hello everyone and welcome to another video. My name is Katie and this is my channel Bad Betty Books, and this is my channel introduction or an about my channel video. I thought I would make this video because I actually have an old channel introduction video that sometimes people still watch, but I feel like it's out of date and I just wanted to make a better introduction to my channel, talk about who I am, what I'm about, what I read, why I read, and all of the stuff that I wanted to talk about. So that's what this video is going to be about. First, we're going to start with a little bit about me. My name is Katie, and I started this channel during the pandemic when I was living alone in a different city. I live in the United States. I live in the northern half of the United States. For those of you familiar with United States geography, I live in the Midwest, kind of close to the Canadian border. I have lived in this region of the US my entire life. I completed my schooling back in 2019. I received a degree in mathematics, and I currently work as a developer for a large company. So I have a day job. I have regular things to do with my time between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., but I love reading. Reading is one of my core hobbies. I love doing it. I've been a reader since I was a kid. Some of my core memories were my parents taking me to the local library to read, and this is just something I thought that would be fun to do while living alone in a different city during a time where socialization wasn't really something I was able to do. I started this sort of because I wanted an outlet to talk about books, but also because I felt like I needed a creative hobby. I am not really a creative person. I do have a number of hobbies, but they tend to be more outdoor or action focused. I love exercising, I love bike riding, I love hiking, I just got into paddle boarding, I love taking road trips around the United States. I love playing video games, I love hanging out with my friends, I love exploring new places. I enjoy quite a bit of activities, but I'm not really a creative person, or I don't think of myself as a creative person. So I wanted to challenge myself by doing something totally outside my comfort zone. Filming videos, talking about books in a book review manner was something I wasn't comfortable doing, and I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could do it. I know I was going to be very bad at first, but I felt like it was going to be something that I ultimately would find very rewarding and would be a very meaningful hobby for me to start, and would get something a little more creative in my mix. So at this point, I have been doing this for a couple years. I actually wasn't very consistent at the beginning because I didn't like it. I was in this phase where it was very new, and because it was very new, it was very uncomfortable. I felt like I couldn't articulate my ideas about books very well, and I didn't really feel comfortable sitting and talking to a camera. That was a very new experience. I had never done that before. So all of that kind of meant that I wasn't very consistent at first, but I recently decided that I want to be very consistent with this because I really like doing this hobby. I never want this to become a chore. I never want reviewing books to become something that I dread or don't look forward to doing, but I do really enjoy doing this, and I want to bring about consistency to my book reviews, which is why I've become a lot more consistent, I would say, in the last year and a half with my reviews. I'm now trying to post a book review, I say almost every day, because I do read quite a bit, but I don't hold myself to that like a strict standard or schedule. At this point, I have 600 plus videos. Not all of them are book reviews. I also do a little study inspiration, and I organize a lot of my videos into playlists. So if you're looking for manga, if you're looking for books on nature, if you're looking for photography collections, if you're looking for history collections, then there's a playlist on my channel for you. I found a lot of benefits in starting this channel. I enjoy reviewing the books because I feel like I'm forced to think about the books a lot more deeply when I'm reading it. I wouldn't say I rushed through books before, although I do have quite a quick reading pace, but I feel like when I know I'm going to have to sit in front of a camera and talk about the book, I think about the book a little bit more deeply. I think about why I'm feeling a certain way about a book. Previously, if I was reading a book and I didn't like it, I would just be like, I don't like this book. And that might be all I say. But when I review the book, I have to think about why I don't like that book. Why am I not liking this character? Why am I not connecting with this author's writing style? Because I'm going to need to explain that in front of a camera. And I think more deeply about that. And I ponder my books a little bit more deeply when I know that I'm going to be reviewing it. Also, I've just gotten great recommendations. I don't have a huge following, but I do have some people who have recommended books to me that have wound up being great recommendations. I actually keep my book recommendations on a playlist. So if you're looking for things that people have recommended me, or if you want to recommend something to me, then please leave it in the comments below. I always try to get to book recommendations. Now let's talk about my reading style, how I choose what to read, and what I'm reading now. Books. So I do read between 150 and 250 books a year, just depends on what I'm reading. I find that while I do read quite a bit, and I will read almost anything, both fiction and nonfiction, there are some genres that I just am not as drawn to, and I do tend to go through phases, let's call them. Because I read so many, I get my books out of the library. Now, I love owning books. I think it's super cool to own books, but I quite frankly couldn't afford or wouldn't want to put out that much money to buy 250 books every single year. Also, I rent, so every time I move apartments, I have to take all my books and I have to move them from one apartment to the other, and moving books is my least favorite part of moving because they are very heavy. When I own a house, I would like to own all my books, but for now, I just have a small amount of books that I've collected as gifts or that I have purchased throughout the years, and I get most of my books from the public library. When I go to the public library, I do have a couple series I'm reading, or I might have some holds that I want to get from the library, but mostly I just wander around and see what catches my eye. I just walk between the floors and I just pull books off the shelf that seem like they may be interesting, and I add them to my pile. This wandering, I feel like, exposes me to more books than I would if I went in with a single-minded objective. I don't think there's anything wrong with going to the library and knowing what books you want to get from the library. It probably saves you a bunch of time, but by wandering, I've picked books off the shelf that I would never have come across otherwise that have been really good hidden gems. So I do like my style of going about things, even though it might not be the most efficient way of going about things. As mentioned, I read both fiction and nonfiction, although within fiction, I do find that horror tends to be too scary for me and I usually don't read, and romance is a genre that I'm usually not drawn to. However, if you have recommendations in either of those genres, I will still take them and give them an honest try. Those are just the two areas that you won't see me do a lot of reviews in, because of the nature of the books and my personal taste and preferences. Otherwise, nonfiction on just about any topic in the world I will read, and fiction, sci-fi, fantasy, historical fiction, any other sort of fiction, mysteries, it's all fair game to me because I like reading a wide variety of stuff. I have access in the state that I live in the United States, to a system that allows me to order books from any other library in my state. So I have a very large system or network that I'm working with. So if you have a recommendation, I am almost guaranteed to be able to find a copy of it. So if you have any recommendations, I love reading your recommendations, and that's one of my favorite things that I have gotten out of my channel. So if you have recommendations, always put them in the comments. I will get them, and I will try my best to get my hands on the book through the system that I have available to me. Finally, I don't review every single book that I read. If I think a book might be kind of controversial, if I feel like my opinion on a book might be too controversial, if I feel like I'm not going to have anything positive to say and it's not going to be fun for me to read, I never want to come on here and be very divisive, or I don't want to come on here and trash an author's work that they've put a lot of hard work in. So I don't review everything. Also, I get a lot of books out for personal development or growth or things that I'm just working on that I'm not going to review, but I do review and show most books that I check out of the library. So that's just a little bit about why not every single book that I check out or read I'm going to review, and also why maybe the number of book reviews on my channel doesn't match the total that I say I read for an entire year. I am also doing some reading challenges. So as mentioned, despite doing my wandering around the library and just seeing what comes to me off the shelf, in addition to that, I also have some more organized reading that I do as well. I do have an overall goal for each year. I try to read 150 books, which is my real goal, and then I have a 250 books goal that's kind of a stretch goal. If I hit 150, I consider that a good year. That's me reading as much as I want to read. And if I hit 250, then I consider myself having done my stretch goal. I feel like the number of books I read depends on what kind of mood I'm in. This year I've been reading a lot of manga series, and because manga series tend to read quite quickly to me and I can read a couple of volumes in an evening, my number this year is going to be a lot bigger. I'm thinking that I might end up closer to 300 this year, but that's just because of the fact that this year I'm kind of in this phase where I'm reading a lot of manga. If the next year I'm reading a lot of nonfiction, then things may change and I may only read 140 or 150 books because those books might take a lot longer for me to get through. Also, I'm doing this challenge, which is going to take quite a number of years, I think. I'm reading through all the Hugo Award winners and shortlisted finalists in the novel and novella category. This is from a Wikipedia page, so you can see what I've read. I do find it a little more challenging to find some of those older books because they were written in the 1950s, 60s, and not a lot of libraries still have copies of them, but I am reading it. I love those genres of sci-fi and fantasy, so seeing the development of those genres and reading what's been considered throughout the years some of the best has been very enjoyable and interesting for me to do. Like I mentioned, I'm reading a lot of manga this year. I am reading the series Kaguya-sama Love is War, Haikyuu. No matter how I look at it, it's you guys' fault I'm not popular, and Komi Can't Communicate. I would say those are the core series I'm working through right now. I know some of those are ongoing, like Komi Can't Communicate. I believe a volume just came out this month, but I'm always looking for manga recommendations. I do have a couple series that I'm starting or trying, but I love getting recommendations, so please pass your manga recommendations on to me, or if you're reading any of those series, then check out my reviews on those series as well. Additionally, I am part of a book club with my aunt and my sisters, so I do read some books that maybe I wouldn't pick myself, but I read them because they're part of the book club that I belong to and I want to participate in the book club. So that's a little bit about me, why I started my channel, where I am, the benefits I found from starting my channel, my reading style, and the reading challenges that I'm partaking in. I love getting your feedback. I love hearing about what books you're reading. I love knowing what you're reading. I love getting your suggestions. So please put that all in the comments below. I would love to receive it. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching and I hope you have a great rest.